The Ghana Education Service says all pupils will be promoted to the next class when schools resume for all classes in January 2021. Now, that explanation by the service comes as some school heads have raised concerns about the academic calendar. President Akufo-Addo announced the resumption of classes for JHS2 and SHS2 pupils in October next month. Pupils from kindergarten to JHS1, however, will be staying at home till next year. Now, parents, teachers, guardians, what are your thoughts on this? How do you even understand it? What do you make of it? Join us via Zoom and take a look at the link at the bottom of your screen and let your voices be heard. Before that, though, Deputy Director General in charge of Management Services at the GES, Anthony Balfour, says preparations are being made to make up for the lost time whilst the students stay at home. He spoke to us on the AM show. Mama V. Owusu-Abuaje had that conversation with him.
At some of the discussions at the committee you referred to level, this issue of private schools and their teachers came up for discussion. Yes, so we do appreciate those concerns, and we are equally as worried because they are all Ghanaians and they all need to survive. So we are very much concerned about that. On the issue of the allegation that we are adding one more year, I can say for now, no, we are not thinking of adding another year. What we are thinking of now is how do we complete the academic year, which has been adversely affected by COVID-19. Now, probably let me explain something. Our recommendation to the president on the SHS2, SHS1, fundamentally, we will have wished that the schools did not go back until January, fundamentally.
All the schools, including?
All the everybody.
Okay.
But we felt that then we looked at the impact assessment and realized that those in JHS2 will be moving to their final year next time. Those in SHS2 will be moving to their final year next time. Now, the impact on them will be severer. So we should find a way for them to complete their academic year. And that is why it was agreed that they could do the third term, as it were, even though we cannot even have the full complement of the period. But they could do the third term so that we could reduce the amount of adverse impact they will have when they move into their final year. Now, let me explain why KG, especially KG1 to, let's say, P3, cannot go to school. Their curriculum, as under this standard-based curriculum, is to be taught primarily through play. In fact, their sitting arrangement, their interaction in the classroom, whatever they do is revolving around play and interaction.
And that's contact.
And that's contact. And under COVID-19, the primary role that everybody should be is expected to play now is to keep social distancing. That is why we are not even allowing several activities like sporting, like culture. So it was going to be very difficult to teach these children minus play.
So that's the Deputy Director General in charge of Management Services at the Ghana Education Service, Anthony Balfour, with that explanation there. I'm joined right now by Communications Director for the Coalition of Concerned Teachers Ghana, Adukwe Ayikwe Awole. Hi, sir. Thank you for your time this afternoon. Hello, can you hear me? Thank you for your time. Ms. Adukwe, can you hear me? Okay, looks like he's having a hard time hearing me. Let's see if we can readjust that and get him. He is Adukwe Ayikwe Awole. He speaks for the Concerned Teachers Association, and we want to find out what their thoughts are as you know, a lot of private schools are reeling under this particular dispensation with the closure of the schools, so they don't have access to any sort of government funding as against what the public institutions have. Yesterday we spoke to them and they told us the concerns that they have. They say some schools take as low as 30 cedis with which they pay their staff and take care of the school. Without that, it looks like some of the teachers are getting really agitated. So that's what we want the conversation we want to continue. This time we're looking at the angle of parents and teachers. But as you heard the Ghana Education explain, there is going to be an automatic promotion, which the private teachers yesterday who we spoke to said. Automatic promotion, what does it mean? What does a group like the concerned teachers make of this? Let's hear from concerned parents that we've been speaking to on the streets of Accra. When we come, we'll try and link up with Mr. Adekoye and hear their thoughts on this as well.
If you allow these kids to go to school early, we don't know what will happen. The virus can escalate. It can spread quickly through the kids, though we have low rate of it going or maybe attacking the kids. But then I think we should not risk by asking the kids to go back to school this year. It's better they go in January. By that time, everything has been lowered. So I believe it's in order because the borders will surely be opened tomorrow. And when it's open, we do not know whether the virus will escalate because of the people that will be coming. So we cannot risk our kids going back to the classrooms. What Nanado has done is perfect. The SS2 and the GSS2 kids will go back. That will be like a rehearsal, a dress rehearsal for us to see how it will be like. Some motive mu frank totofi wa no mo course aje no okwa say okwa eden okwa hwe enti me de ya yale na nkanka na akufa do no nka se mu fran ntena fi enti saje no no eye sani na na kan de ye mpanifo se sabi akokorabo fo se na tena fi ma se duafo.
So those were some parents. You heard them yesterday. We thought to bring that in as a reminder as we get up and get ready for you to join us on Zoom wherever you are in your home. We want your voices to be heard so that the authorities will know how you feel about this. If you have any suggestions, you can put them through as well. This is The Pulse with me, Gifty, and up here. I'm going to take a very quick break. Welcome back to the show. Many thanks for staying with us. But we're going back to our conversation about the education and about the reopening, partial reopening of schools. You want to join us on Zoom. The ID is 97955032190. And also passcode, if you want to click on the link, just follow the passcode, is 024949. Well, let's hear from the ranking member on Parliament's Education Committee, Peter Nochu-Kuto, who joins me via Zoom. Hello, sir. Thank you for your time this afternoon. Mr. Nochu, can you hear me? It looks like you're on mute. So if you can unmute for me, then we can all hear you. At this point, we can't hear you. Hello, Mr. Nochu-Kuto, can you hear me? Okay, it looks like the internet isn't being very friendly with us. We'll see how we have that Zoom conversation, very important conversation. We will have it. We surely will have it. So some people are going to school in October, which is next month. Some are going to school in January, which is 2021, next year. What it means, and our understanding is that that part of the academic calendar seems to be suspended. That's the understanding we have at this point. Let's try and get the committee again and find out what they think, what they make of this. Hi, Mr. Nochu, can you hear me? Great, I do see you, but you need to, right, I hear you now. I hear you now, so we're good to go. I like to believe that the committee has been discussing this matter. Have you?
Thank you very much. The committee has not been involved in this matter all this while. Can you hear me?
I do hear you perfectly. Please go ahead.
Yeah. The committee has not been involved in the discussions as to the reopening of schools. So we also hear the instructions, announcements as made by the president.
Okay. And don't you,
yeah.
is the committee not represented on the other committee that's looking into this matter, even before President Akufo-Addo made that announcement?
Not as much as I know, because the committee that was formed, the parliament was not represented on it. As far as I know, no, the committee wasn't involved. Yeah.
I see. And so at your level, you have not had any conversation at all, even after President Akufo-Addo's announcement on Sunday?
No, you know, Parliament is now on recess. Yeah, so it will be difficult, even if there's any information to that effect, to convene a meeting of members.
I mean, not necessarily. I mean, not necessarily even a meeting, but to have, you know, some kind of general conversation, because I want to have the general idea of what committee members think of this particular instruction or announcement.
Actually, when the Minister for Education came to brief Parliament 2 weeks before recess on what the government has been doing so far in education, we reminded him that he should have ended his statement by assuring Ghanaians when schools will reopen, because that's what Ghanaians were expecting. So a week later, that committee was formed to look into the modalities for the reopening of schools. And we also even said over there that as a minority, we will prefer a staggered reopening of schools, because if you look at what happened when the third year senior high school students went back to school to write examinations, we realized that the planning was not very effective. So we would prefer a staggered one. And I'm sure this is what the president has announced. But in actual fact, we are looking forward that before the 5th of October, enough preparations will be made so that the lapses that we encountered when the senior high, the former students were going back to school, we don't repeat.
Okay, we'll get to talk about that. I believe that has to do with the COVID-19 protocols. But I want us to, I just want to find out what it means from what the experts we've spoken to, say, or people within the sector have said, is that there is a partial suspension of the academic calendar. What it means is that students, and we heard from the GES today that students are going to be, there's going to be some sort of automatic promotion next year. Does that sound okay for you?
Yes, we mentioned also that the academic year must be considered ended by yesterday, which is 31st August. The academic year had ended. So whatever they stopped, that constituted the end of the academic year. So anything from September will be a new academic year, and that is okay with us.
Okay. And shouldn't they have, because there hasn't been any sort of assessment to move them from one stage to the other, shouldn't they have just been made to, say, repeat the particular level?
Yeah. So what we mean to make sure that they cover all the.
Okay, if I hear you right, I think you said what we need to do is to make sure that they cover all the syllabi within that period.
Exactly so. That's what they should be aiming at doing.
Okay. In terms of the COVID-19 protocols, exactly what are your expectations and what do you know has been done so far?
Yeah, we experienced a late supply of PPEs. When the senior high school project, the third year students were coming back to school. So we will expect that this time there wouldn't be any delay. And then they must make sure that all the equipment is supplied in time, so that as soon as they reopen, then there will not be any lack of PPEs in the school for both teachers and students to use. So I think that is what is important for them. And then where possible, testing equipment should be made available at certain locations where whenever there is any suspected case, they can quickly call on the health officials to come and carry out the test for the students.
Have you had any feedback to the effect that people find the president's announcement a little confusing?
Well, it is only the private school proprietors who have made some complaints that they are not being factored into schemes of affairs, as well as teachers, teacher unions, who are also saying that they have never been consulted, at least in making sure that their inputs are taken on board for the effective reopening of schools, because teachers are stakeholders who must be consulted as many times as possible to make sure that the reopening is very smooth. They know what to do and what not to do to help the teachers and then the students as well. So there's a need for consultation.
Yeah, then there's a need for consultation. Don't you think it's a bit too late at this point, because an announcement has been made? In fact, the private teachers, again, the private school teachers, private school association indicated yesterday that they were shocked that President Akufo-Addo added that to his address on Sunday, because the committee working on it was suspected to finish the work by 20th of this month. So they were a bit shocked to hear President Akufo-Addo make that announcement.
Yeah, everybody was taken aback, especially when a committee has been put in place just a little over a week ago to come out with the modalities. And we complained also about the composition of that committee, because teacher unions and then the educational workers unions were not taken on board. And these are very, very important stakeholders. And we made that known to the Minister for Education, that fine, putting a committee in place is good, but the composition was not wide enough, because we must listen to these major stakeholders. And I think that is what was late. So we were expecting that if we hear anything at all, it will be getting to the end of September. But all the same, once the announcement has been made, we are saying that put in place all the necessary measures to make sure that when they go back, we don't experience what happened when the final year students of the SHS went back to school to prepare for their examinations.
Does the minority in Parliament have any plans to push for some sort of cushioning for the private schools or for the private school teachers? Some of them are reeling. They say they don't have, they can't pay their staff. The staff themselves are getting very agitated. Yesterday when I spoke to the association, they said the staff, some of them are even planning on demonstrating, etc. Is the minority in Parliament or on this particular committee looking at pushing for any sort of support, government support for groups like that?
You know that for the private schools, they rely solely on fees paid by parents on behalf of their wards in their various schools. So when school is not in session, there's no means by which they can get money to pay salaries. So it is rather unfortunate that since March, that is the middle of March up to today, there's no income for these schools to enable them pay the teachers and then the additional staff that help them in the management of the school. I was expecting that the COVID-19 stimulus package, private schools should have been taken on board as well, so that they can cushion them and meet them maybe halfway, so that the proprietors can also probably get some money paid to their staff. Because since March, they have not been paid salaries, and how they are living, how they are able to survive, I'm sure it's just by the grace of God. So I expected that National Board for Small-Scale Industries, with the money given them, they could have taken care of private schools as well. And then the Minister of Education can also have a package for them to support them in a way so that they will be able to have some sorts of income. So we will continue as a minority to talk on their behalf. We have said it 1 or 2 times already, and I hope that government is listening to the plight of the private school owners.
Mr. Nochukuto, thank you so much for your time for this afternoon. Peter Nochukuto there, he's a ranking on the Education Committee in Parliament. We're still going to start our Zoom conversation, but I have Angel Kabono, who is the NAT president. He joins me right now via Zoom. Nagrat, I beg your pardon. Mr. Kabono, thank you for your time this afternoon. I almost misplaced you.
Thank you very much. I was going to surcharge you for that mistake, but you are forgiven.
Thank you. Okay, so let's say I'm imagining you sitting behind your television on Sunday, listening to the president talk about opening up of the borders, and then all of a sudden, that if you didn't know already, it comes up that he's talking about reopening of schools. What thoughts were going through your mind at that time?
Well, I'm sure the advisors of the president advised him based on information available to them. The fact is that both parents, students, and teachers are all reeling under the abnormal times that we find ourselves. When COVID-19 came, we all thought that by now we would have seen the end of COVID-19. I was monitoring foreign media, and I realized that the numbers are still surging up in those other countries and so on and so forth. So we are in a time that decision making is a very difficult thing to take.
Right. So were you expecting that President Akufo-Addo will announce the reopening or partial reopening of schools on Sunday when he did? And given that there is a committee that's supposed to, finish its work by the 20th of this month?
Yes, that is also something that surprised us, because we had the announcement of the committee that was formed by the Minister of Education. To our surprise and disappointment, the unions were not part of that committee, but that is not a problem. We were thinking that the committee report, the draft report of the committee, maybe will be subjected to wider discussion. That also was not the case. So maybe the
I've lost your sound, Mr. Kabono. Looks like you hit the unmute button. I hear you now. Please go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead. I hear you perfectly. From the point,
Hello?
Yes. Can you hear me? If you do, please go ahead. I can hear you, and I heard you up to the point where you said you were hoping that the committee's report will be subjected to, a broader conversation by the stakeholders. Please continue from there. Okay, am I getting lucky? Looks like I'm not. Let's see if we can try that again. Mr. Kabono, are you there? Do you hear me? I hear you okay now, by the way.
Hello?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
I do hear you perfectly. Please go ahead.
Okay, so I think maybe the committee might have fast-tracked its work and present their report to the president. We do not know. But as I'm saying, that the decision has been taken, and we'll see how we can handle it as we go forward.
Okay, and that's actually the focus of my next question, handling it as we go forward. Now we know that it looks as if a part of the calendar for this year has been suspended, because from kindergarten to JHS 1, they're going to school next year. And then we have SHS 2 and JHS 2 pupils who are going back, students who are going back to school to continue. What arrangements have been made? I mean, what's in this? What can you share with us as far as what's in this from your perspective as an educationist?
We expect that in the first place, the various PPEs will be available in the schools, and the PPEs will be adequate and enough to go around the number of days that the students will be in school. We expect that decisions will be taken to decongest classrooms and dormitories as much as possible. We expect that effective health units are assigned to each school, so that if there is any case, the schools will quickly contact those health units for remedies to be applied. And then we also expect that teachers will be motivated to go the extra mile in these difficult times. Now, the second thing specific to teaching and learning is that the general syllabus is there. We all do know that when a student comes to Form 1, by the end of his course in Form 3, the student is supposed to know A, B, C, D to prepare the student to write the exams. So for the teachers, they knew where they left off and they knew where to take off. So that will not be too much of a problem for teachers.
Okay. But for the students?
The students, you see, there are some students, and I noticed that from the Form 3s who were in school recently, who were in a state of apprehension and fear during the time that they were in school. Luckily, most of them are finishing. A batch, I understand, is going to finish their exams today. By the close of next week, they'll finish their exams. But people were in uncertain times, and it psychologically affects the frame of mind needed for teaching and learning to take place.
I see. I have a statement here from the teacher unions, press statement from the teacher unions, in which it says NAT, NAGRAT and CCTGH is giving government, I think, 15th of September, a 15th September ultimatum for government to pay teachers, for the affected teachers to be paid, or we have no alternative than to advise ourselves. I'll go through the statement a bit later. You are aware of this, aren't you?
Yes, absolutely, yes.
Okay, tell us a bit more about it, sir.
3 months ago, the names of 14,358 or so teachers have had their names deleted from the payroll. And we checked and realized that it is based on the advice given by the audit service that these teachers are non-existent and they are termed in inverted commas as ghost teachers. We realized that the audit service did not do further verification with the various unit heads to know whether truly these teachers were in the schools or not. And as we speak, the teachers are teaching, they are in the schools, they are teaching, they are doing their work normally, but their names have been taken off payroll for the past 3 months as we speak. We thought that by this August salary, those teachers will be paid. We have realized that the teachers have still not been paid this August. So those teachers are very, very unfortunately being punished for something that they have not done. If the people were ghosts, how come that you take their names off payroll, the people complain? So we feel that this is injustice for those teachers, and we expect government to quickly develop a supplementary payroll quickly and pay them by the 15th of September with all the 3 months arrears.
And if they don't?
Or if they don't, the unions will have to advise themselves, because we don't see any justification that audit service will carry an exercise and will not resort to the various management services and the various unit heads before they implement the outcome of the exercise.
Have your engagements, given you any indications that what you are demanding will be done?
We went to the Ghana Education Service a fortnight ago, and we raised concerns on this matter. Management indicated to us that they have identified the anomaly and that the people will be paid. And we thought that August, the people will be paid this August.
Okay, well, August has ended, where we've just started September. So I'm hoping that you hear.
That's why we have been very rational and have given 15th September, those teachers have to be paid.
Okay. Mr. Kabonu, I say a very big thanks to you, and hopefully we'll hear good news from your side about teachers that are not being paid. Coronavirus has not been very charitable at all, I must say. But do you have any of the private teachers as part of your membership?
No. You see, the private schools themselves sometimes are very scared in allowing their teachers to be unionized. But these are the reasons why you allow people to get unionized, so that when they are in trouble like this, the union will fight for them. But the management of the private schools are so scared to allow their teachers to be unionized.
Mr. Carbono, thank you once again. Angel Carbono is president of NAGRAS, and they are demanding that by 15th of September this year, or next month, well, no, this month, that government would have paid some 14,345 teachers and workers in the Ghana Education Service who they say have had their names deleted from the payroll. They're demanding that the Finance Ministry sets up a supplementary budget to be able to pay these people who have been whose names have been removed. We'll still hang on with our conversation with you, parents, teachers, on the reopening, partial reopening of the schools.